Hello everyone, good afternoon. Hope all of you are safe. Welcome to the webinar by Department of ENC and IEEE SJC Student Branch. We are happy and delighted to host the fifth webinar of our EC webinar series. Today's webinar is on predictive analysis of big healthcare data, keep the disease at bay by Dr. Suvindu, System Architect, Research and Development and MD, India Division, Voltec Corporation type. Before we start, I would just like to announce few housekeeping rules. Your mics are muted by default. Please use chat box for any queries and questions to the speaker. You can post the questions during the session and will be answered during the Q&A session at the end. Please send the questions directly to the host or directly to everyone so that the questions are visible to everyone, and don't directly send it to the presenter. The slides by the speaker will be made available to the participants based on the speaker's discussion. The recording of the webinar will be available on SJC YouTube channel in a week's duration of time. The webinar is purely for gaining knowledge and self-improvement, as we have been talking about this quite a lot, but we cannot 100% guarantee and certify that without any kind of assessment. And it is very difficult to do so in a short duration of one and a half hours. Hence, we will not be giving any certificates, so I request you not to ask for any certificates. Feedback link will be shared at the end of the Q&A session. Please fill it. It will be helpful for us to improve our future sessions. Now I request our head HOD, Dayakshini, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon. Predictive analysis of big data to improve healthcare is a significant interdisciplinary research area for early detection and diagnosis of various diseases. A technical expertise is required to find hidden values from the already existing large volume of clinical data. Today's webinar on predictive analysis of big healthcare data, Keep the Disease at Bay, by Dr. Suvendu Mohapatra, System Architect, R&D and MD, India Division, Voltec Corporation, Taiwan, will definitely enlighten us in this research area. On behalf of management and staff of St. Joseph Engineering College, Mangalore, I welcome you, sir. A wholehearted welcome to our mentor and guide, Dr. UC Niranjan, sir, Director, Manipal.net. Welcome, sir. A cordial welcome to Dr. Jagadish R. Bhatt, Associate Professor, EC Department. And also, I would like to thank you for arranging this webinar. A hearty welcome to my colleagues, Mr. Keith R. Fernandez and Ms. Rashmi H. Also, I thank you very much for taking a lot of initiations to identify most relevant topics and prominent speakers. A cheerful welcome to all participants, and I'm sure this webinar will explore the power of various analytical techniques to provide solutions for value-based healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome to you as well. Now I request Dr. Jagdish R.B., Associate Professor, Department of EC, to introduce today's speaker to the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Suvendu Mohapatra. So Dr. Suvendu Kumar Mohapatra received the BTech degree from Biju Patnaik University, India in 2008, and MTech degree from IIT in 2010, and PhD degree in Electrical Engineering, Division of Computer Science and Information Engineering, Chang'an University, Taiwan. He was an assistant professor with the Industry 4.0 Center, National Taiwan University Science Technology, that is Taiwan Tech, Taiwan. Currently, he is working as a system architect, R&D, and managing director, India branch in Voltec Corporation, Taiwan. His research interests include the areas of big data analysis with the cloud, industrial automation, medical big data analysis, prediction, optimization, and machine learning. So with this brief introduction, once again, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Jagdish and Dr. Dayakshini and Dr. Niranjan sir. And also, I would like to thanks to Mr. Kethi and Rashmi So thanks a lot to the IEEE SGEC, and also I thanks to all the students and faculty members to join to this webinar. So
Thank you.
may I share the screen here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have made you the presenter. You can share your screen and start your presentation. Yes, visible. Yeah, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Before the presentation, my voice is a little bit low. So if it is not clear, please let me know.
Yeah. Can you keep little bit mic closer? Is it possible?
Yeah, sure. Is this okay now?
A little bit better.
Open my. Okay, I believe now it should be okay.
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the title itself, the predictive analysis of big data healthcare. Um, and also, I mentioned a term, keep the disease at bay. So basically, we are going through very tough situation right now across our locality or even though across the globe as well. So it is a pandemic situation. Everyone is well aware of this situation, and we are looking for some solutions or some alternatives. So it is happened after the kind of pandemic is already been reached to us, and we are looking for the solutions. So now the point is, can we predict it's something is going to happen in future at the right time? That is most important. When at the right time can we predict these kind of things before it get happen to us, so that we can take precautionary action and the measures. Maybe we cannot stop it, but we can reduce the impact. So that's why we need to go for some analytics. We can take the help of our predictive analytics to go through this kind of the data sets which will occur, which will be generated through our healthcare systems. So before proceed in details, I would like to introduce a little bit about the company where I worked on, and also the future trends. So future trends is most important part, because we would like to know what are the possibilities in our future where we can work on various direction along with the big data. And besides, we can look into the big data applications and how we can store those data into the cloud, and we can collect those data, can analyze, and we will go through this prediction model what I have designed. So for my company information, so I worked in Voltec Corporation, which is located in Taiwan, Taipei. It is founded in 1994. In during these 25 years of experience in this company is basically providing the internet products, for example switches, gateways for GLT routers and gateways. So this kind of product line what we have. And we have also the office or the quarter in Hyderabad, where we support the customer, and also we go for the development, like the product development, the protocol development. So networking is a key concept nowadays. You can imagine we are working in our home because of this pandemic. All of us, most of us, we are working work from home. So how we can able to make this happen? Because we are connected. I am sitting in Taiwan, someone is in Bangalore, someone is in some other location. Even though we are different parts, geographical region of the world, but we are connected. Because of this kind of internet connection, we are interconnected. So our company is providing some kind of switches to facilitate for this kind of information. However, we have also some products, also some management like software platforms. So we targeted few vertical segments, for example, industrial, surveillance, and broadband, like ISP and telco infrastructures. So these are some of the application scenarios where we are working on. So let's start with our main discussion, the introduction to the future trends. So when it comes to the trends, we need to understand where we were and where we now. If we talk about the industrial revolution, so initially it had started in 1850s or mid of 18th centuries. So in that industry 1.0, where everything is driven through the mechanical entities, like you can see it in the picture. But in the latter phase, industry 2.0 comes into the picture, where it goes a revolution with the mass production. But however, in a 17th century, because there is a big gap between 20th and 17th century, so it is a transformation. We can say it is a transformation between the way it happens. So in the industry 3.0, all the machineries are semi-automated, like using the computer and also the semi-automation systems. Is this enough to do the things? Yeah, it's enough as long as the human is interacting with the devices is enough. But now in a situation where we could not able to physically go to the system and do the work. So where we need Industry 4.0, this is a remotely connected and manageable the cyber physical system, where most of the technologies related to IoT, Internet of Things, cyber physical system, big data, artificial intelligence, and of course the cloud computing. So I can explain a little bit about the necessity of this kind of things. For example, if we take as IoT, the Internet of Things, the things means the devices. So when we talk about Internet of Things, so the lower layer, all the devices are interconnected with each other to collect the real-time data. When we talk about the CPS or cyber physical system, remotely the operator or the manager or the management can visualize the the logical view of the physical machine, how it works, how it goes, so that, I mean, we can say it as a simulation system, we can say, to operate or to monitor remote. Then when those data are collected through the IoT devices, big data comes into the picture, because those data are huge in volume. So we can take the this healthcare system as an example, how the data are generated at what volume and what pace, because big data has already defined its criteria, where you can call it as big data. Later on, I will explain you more in details. And here what I mean, like the data are collected from the lower end and move to the upper layer. Like you can imagine, it is a cloud layer where we can store those data, and through the artificial intelligence we can analyze those data sets. So it's really necessary to incorporate this Industry 4.0 into our action. So basically this Industry 4.0 has developed or designed through in the German to facilitate for the car automation company, but however is widely spread and work across all the industries. So let's proceed further. We can see how the data are generated in recently. So we come across so many social media, smartphones, IoT, and online healthcare systems where huge volume of data are generated, and we call those data are big data. But when we have gained something, we have some difficulties how to store those data, how to process those data. So let's analyze what is big data, where we can call it is big data. According to the survey or the research, big data has many forms. Example, volume, velocity, variety, diversity, and value. So when we call it as volume, we can call it in scale, like we can measure is in terabyte, petabyte, those kind of scales. When we call it as velocity, at what speed the data are coming? Is this the real-time data, which is coming at the stream system, or it is a historical data? So it defines the velocity. When it called it as variety, because the data has its own way, own format. For example, it can be structured, unstructured, or multi-structured or semi-structured data. When we call it as a structure, so structured means all of us know the rows and columns way to store the data into the table, right? So those data are called structured data because it can directly into the table to define the attributes and its values. But when it goes to the like Excel format or maybe the XML format, where the data are although structured, but it is not well defined. So where we call it as semi-structured data. And you can imagine the data sets which having the images. For example, you can look into the picture also, your X-ray data and some other data are called as unstructured data. So these structured, semi-structured and unstructured data, so those are also create the multi-structured data, which is called big data. The variety is defined the uncertainty, where the precision comes into the picture. Sometimes you can get many data into one event, and the other hand, you may get very less data with respect to the another event. So it defines the variety of the data or uncertainty of the data. The value, which we call these are the insights. So all these information what we receive, the data, then we call it refine. After the refining phase, it goes to the information, and we need to dig the value from it, the core part of the data. So all this combined together is called the big data. Okay, so here I have given an example where you can see how the data are generated. I closely work with the Linko Changang Hospital, where you can see like this is the patient number where it is visited to this hospital, So in the year 2019 to 2013, I have listed these patient numbers, and we have, according to this, the report, we we can generate 80 MB of data, like 4 MB for the text, like structured data, and 76 MB for the unstructured, like image data. So those data are present into this per patient per year storage. So if we calculate in that manner, so we have, you can see the data are in terabyte form, and this is 10 years back or 12 years back. If you can look into the recent future, it's really being I mean higher in number. So how to analyze, process, and store these kind of data sets? We can give one more example. Uh, Everyone knows about the border situation of India. So if we can put some surveillance camera into our borderline, we need to collect those real data of any intruder or any trespasser to this fence, which can detect and can analyze. So this is the real time, because we try to analyze the real time data sets. So it's defined the velocity. Again, if we comes to discuss about the variety is like the as I mentioned to you, is a structure on semi-structured and unstructured data sets. So again, the question arises how to analyze, process, and store those data sets. And big data has its wide range of applications to go through all the different segments. For example, government, manufacturing, healthcare, retail, and also the IoT or some specific applications, for example, smart city or smart community. So here today we discuss one domain. It is healthcare domain. In this healthcare domain, also we need to store those data into the cloud platform, because as we saw, those data are in volume. With some virtualization technique, we can store, we can share those kind of memory and also the RAM, also the processors through the cloud system, so that we don't need to go for a very everything in our hand. So it will increase the cost as well. So to reduce those kind of cost, or we need to just go for as it is, as we use, we need to pay. So we can use this kind of platform to enable this kind of features and to reduce the cost as well. So let's discuss about this kind of analysis. So here is an example, like once we collect this data, it can be two types of data. One is, I can say, the data are collected from the hospital, and also like nowadays we are very well known or aware about healthcare devices. For example, the health band we wear in our hand, or we in our mobile also we have some features to collect our health data, the health monitoring data, and can transmit into the backend for the storage purpose or the analysis purpose. So few motivations to go for this work, which is most important. Before we start any kind of analysis, we need to know where is the problem. Actually, to find a problem is a problem. To find a solution is just an addition to that problem. But the main problem is to find that problem. So here we conclude some of the issues. For example, the symptoms are not considered. For example, when we visit to the doctor, doctor is asking, okay, you have fever. Okay, how long you have the fever? you can say like, okay, 2 days I have the fever, or one day I have the fever. Okay, he note it down, and accordingly he can prescribe the medication. But the question is, did he ask for the, okay, before the fever, what else you have? Do you have sneezing? Do you have coughing? Do you have something else? Headache? So these kind of symptoms we ignore at the initial stage. But during our study, we are considered those kind of small inputs, because every input will impact the outcomes. Okay, the next one is the parameters. So when we consider the parameters, we have lots of parameters. So we need to investigate each and every one, because when we analyze those parameters for a single person, it is a bit difficult to analyze all the parameters through the human being. So that's why we need to take the advantage of artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and also our cloud processing system. Yeah. Also here we come out with the ANN a longer period of time, because every time you can imagine artificial neural network will store those information, the hidden information, into the node, and it will pass to the other node. It will take time. So we need to consider this processing time as well. Another one is like the visiting frequency of the patients. This is also most critical point, because last in my last discussion we check every time, every visit, the patient enter some information or some data, generate some data, which is in initially it is the MB. Maybe what if we consider when you visit once, you have 2 MB of data. In the next time, also it generates the data, because the doctor needs to write a note. In all the modern facility, the doctor needs to key in all the information, even the write his note into the system. So every time, every visit, every prescription will generate the data. So we need to consider your visit to the hospital into the count, which we have considered in our work. So the main aim or the goal of this work is to predict the future health condition. However, before that, we need to correlate those parameters, because as you saw, it has lots of parameters. We need to analyze those parameters. So we go for a correlation analysis, and we need um, a probabilistic approach to collect those data, because we consider the visiting probability. We assume the patient will visit to the hospital once, twice, thrice, n times, like multiple times. So let's discuss with the environment first. So in this kind of environment where we have hospitals in multiple locations, like for example, we have Apollo Hospital, right? So Apollo has its own brands, in different locations as well. So maybe in Bangalore has one branch, in Bangalore has one branch, in even the same city has multiple branches. So you can imagine when a patient is visit to the hospital, it goes to a single department, right? But that patient associated with multiple things. For example, the doctor needs to prescribe the medication. So medicine belongs to the pharmaceutical department. If that person covers with some insurance, then it goes to the health insurance data sets. And also, when the patient is admitted into the hospital, not only the doctor, the nurse, or the attendant, like some attendees will also comes into the picture. And it is not limited until this. You can imagine in our research system, the doctors or the scientists can take those data and they analyze and they can put their results into the database. Overall, there is a management system also who manage the management data is also comes into the picture. So if you can imagine, all these kind of data sets will generate a huge volume of data. We call it as big data. So as I mentioned, we simulate or we model this data, the entire healthcare system into different ways. For example, here you can imagine like the doctor, the patient, and also we can imagine the band. Band means the patient which having, like I explained you before, the body area network where you can collect those data by yourself, like through some devices, and we assume those data will goes into the hospital data sets where you have been registered. For example, you are a chronic patient, like you are a heart disease patient, you regularly visit to a hospital, and you have a pacemaker heart. So nowadays, the pacemaker can also automatic and can transmit the data through a small unit. We call it as a node, or even though some gateways. So this kind of data, we also call it as the body area network data, which needs to be sent to the hospital for long-term analysis. So if you look into the problem formulation, so here we collect the doctor, the patient, and also the body area network. So these three kind of inputs for our data sets. And as we know, everyone will connect to or register into a specific department, and those department belongs to one single hospital. So where you can imagine has multiple hospitals, like we consider is summarize it into like H number of hospitals. So those patients, those departments, those hospitals will generate a huge volume of the data sets, and we store those data into the backend or to the cloud system. So those clouds may be the private clouds or maybe the public clouds. But most of the due to the security reason and respect to the patient's records, all those data sets are all those data are stored into the private cloud. Okay, so we also assume to I mean we define a collection models where you can imagine a patient is maybe a heart disease patient where he has normal and some heart problem. So we use a window-based method. Why we choose this window-based method for the data collection? Because at one instance, you can imagine it is a health record or the blood pressure record is 110. However, at the other side, it is 90. So one instance is a bit higher and one instance is lower. So even though here is higher, but we cannot only take one instance to judge whether the patient is okay or not. That's why we need to imagine to take an window-based time frame. So you can define your window size. Is it in 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes like this? So you can collect those data and can make it as the average to get the more real-time data sets. And as I mentioned to you, we consider the patient visit as also an unit or an entity into our consideration. So we go through a probability system, because once at least one time a patient can visit to the hospital. Maybe next time he don't need, because it will be cured by the medication, but at least one time the patient can visit. So that's why if we go with a probability, then the doctor visit, the department, and also the window length, because the patient needs to collect his information. So this is the minimum probability where the data are collected at least once. If it is more than that, then it is the multiple times. Similarly, we collect for the indoor patients who are already admitted into this visit. So we define it as a department. And if we summarize all those records, including this visiting probability, because before we say we have some text data, like you can imagine your health record, your blood pressure data, your sugar data. So this kind of text data, as well as some image data. So image data is related to your cardiogram, or you can have that ECG data. So those kind of data are image data. So we combine with these two data sets to define our total number of data, or a total volume of the data are generated in a hospital. Yeah, so this is the kind of data we have generated for the patients, and also like one admitted patient, and also B is represent the BAN, the body area network data. So is total is delta W of data will generate with a time frame of W. So you can define your time frame like 3 minutes or 10 minutes, even though you can define 24 hours, 48 hours like this. Okay, so this is the total amount of data we have generated. So once we collect those data, then we have to establish some relationship between those data sets. So for that reason, we go for some correlation analysis, because we need to define who those the parameters who are closely related with each other. That's why we go with some intra-cluster and inter-cluster. I will explain this intra and inter. So intra-cluster means within the same department. For example, in the same department, we have doctors, patients, and each patient having its parameters. Let's take an example. So this is a cardiology department, has many doctors, and one doctor is visit to this patient, and patient has multiple parameters. And when we called it as intra-patient parameters, for example, you can see many patients, many informations, age, sex, thal, even though you can imagine the sugar, and all those record needs to input. And we define an intra-cluster matrix to store those information. Then we come out with the intra-cluster analysis to make it as a column mean, then variance, and we define with the correlation analysis, like this, you can imagine. And sometimes what happens, one patient is maybe a cardiac patient or heart disease patient, but he has also some neurological disorder. So that means, or maybe he has some kidney function failure. So that means one patient belongs to multiple departments. So we also need to define or to analyze, is there any relation or the correlation between the cardiac parameters and also with neurology parameters. So that's why we go with this intra-cluster correlation analysis, and at the same time we try to use the MapReduce model to process this data, because we saw the data sets are very huge in volume. So we define each the data into different chunks or the slices. Then every node we define the column mean, the steps to calculate the correlation, and once it is calculated for the correlation analysis in the map phase, in the reduction phase we go for the prediction and cluster analysis. So these are the steps where we have already been implemented into MapReduce framework. So this is the processing framework, where the MapReduce is a processing framework. Then we go for a prediction mechanism, like we started our discussion. Can we predict the disease before it really happens? So this kind of prediction model is helpful. So here we propose the future health condition prediction model. For example, a patient is having fever or not, or he becomes healthy. It has been predicted. So as I mentioned, we consider the conditions as well, like normal, dizzy, or cold, or the cough, what we mentioned. So these status or the conditions are hidden, or the doctors may not go through in details. So that's why we need to consider this kind of conditions also into our analysis. So this is kind of hidden. So we go with the hidden marker models to define this one, and probabilistic approach. So if we go through this kind of probabilistic approach, it has a states like the healthy or the fever. Then it has different observations, and each observation we need to define some probability. If healthy, what is the probability? If fever, what is the probability? And there is some transition probability. Transition means the state change. If you are healthy and you becomes fever, then the transition will be 0.3. But if you are healthy and becomes healthy, it will be 0.7. If you are fever and becomes healthy, 0.6, because the probability will be less if it is differ, and will be more if it is same. So So this kind of probability we have already been defined, and we have some emission probability, because to based upon the consequence is depend upon the condition what we have. So if, for example, you can see if we are normal and becomes healthy, so it has the highest probability because we are normal. So we tend to be healthy is more probability. But if we are fever and normal to fever is less probability, because it's easily gets cold and dizziness like headache or something. So it's more probability. So this kind of probabilistic approach we have taken into our conditions. So we take this as a 3 days visit in a row. So first day we have these symptoms are normal, then cold, then dizzy. So we come out with a sequence model. So initially we define our probability, like as I mentioned before, and we go with a calculation, like if it is a probability, the starting probability with the emission probability, and we get this point or the information, and we choose a path from your starting point to the observed point. So we choose the highest probability to define our state after 1 day of the visit. For example, you can see before in the day, initial stage we started, and day 1 we get this healthy, because this probability is higher than the fever. And again, we go with the calculation, what the probability we have. And after second day, we found from start to the healthy and again healthy, because this probability is higher than the fever. And again, we go with the third phase of calculation, because my observation is dizzy. So dizzy probability is 0.1 with respect to healthy, but zero point 0.6 with respect to the fever. So now after 3 days, my probability, you can see, is higher than the fever probability is higher than the healthy one. So after the third day of my current state, so it can be predict, like I may have the fever after 3 days. So we also simulate this model into the Cloud Sim simulator, because we use the cloud environment. So it is a free license Cloud Sim simulator. You can download this one. So recently this Cloud Sim has higher version. So you put the higher version simulator. So you need to define these parameters. Of course, it has its own standard values, but if you need more, then you can define your own. So these are the steps where you need to initialize the parameter, and also the define your data center, and also you need to define the broker. So here the broker means the um, the exact work you need to perform. So you can imagine we need to create the virtual parameters, the virtual machine, and then you can use the work you define. Like we need correlation analysis, we need prediction analysis. So those are comes into this cloud-led part. So we need to define those kind of program or the equation into this kind of cloud-led. So finally, after this one, we can get start the simulation and can stop the simulation, get the output. So after our analysis, we found the correlation. You can found, okay, here we took the data sets from one open source data sets. You can refer to the paper. We have already cited these data sets. So according to this data, we found like it has two different data sets, set 1 and set 2, but both of them are same same data sets. I mean belongs to the same department. So the intra-cluster has more higher correlation than the inter-cluster. So inter-cluster, you can see few of them are very less, even though less than 0.5. But here everything is above the 0.9. So the intra-cluster has more correlation value than inter-cluster, but it gives us some evidence, like the patients has also similarity, even though they are belongs to two different diseases, two different disease, or belongs to two different departments. Okay, so initially, when we increase the number of parameters, our stability is not much, because it varies a lot in the initial phase. But however, when all the parameters, like 15 number of parameters we have taken, the stability, the correlation stability is becomes much higher with respect to intra and intercorrelation. So this is the prediction model for, we have implemented. Like I mentioned, we have run through this Cloud Sim simulator, and we define our probability, and also we use the condition healthy or flu, and we define like day 1 healthy, day 2 healthy, day 3 healthy, day 3 we comes into the flu, and day 4 flu, day 5 flu, like this. So we can imagine this kind of prediction, even though before it really happens. Because we use the cloud environment, we can calculate the processing time with respect to the intra-cluster, inter-cluster parameters. And this cloudlets is nothing but the number of works we can increase from 0 to 300. So, moreover, we saw one probabilistic approach to collect the data sets and also the algorithms for the intra-cluster analysis and inter-cluster analysis. And also we have like prediction models to find the disease of a patient before it really happens, and a cloud-based MapReduce model in the and also we make it implement to these cloud sim simulators for our data analysis. So these are the contributions what we made, and we make the accuracy is up to 90%. But it's still being open to work for the real-time patient data, because we work on the historical data what we have collected, but still it is open to work on the real-time data sets. So in another work, I have already been implemented the real-time data, but refer to that work. So here is the some of the publications what we have published, various proceedings like IEEE, and also in the journals of the other sections, and like JPDC in the Elsevier, where like this one I mentioned, it is the real-time data process model. You may refer to this one. And in our recent work, we predict for the colon cancer data sets with the real-time data. So these are few publications we have published with my colleagues and also with my advisors. So this is the paper where what we have I have already shown. So this is citation being almost 60% 60 cited within this 3 to 4 years. So you may refer some other papers if you are interested. Okay, thank you very much for this presentation, and yeah, this is my contact details. If you have any queries or to know more details about this work, or if you are interested to go for some other directions, for example, the industrial applications or some industrial revolution, then yeah, you please feel free to contact me for some another sessions also. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining with me. And if you have any questions, then we can discussion.
Thank you, sir. That was a very informative webinar, and I think we have grasped a lot of things from your webinar today. I request the participants, if you have any questions, please post it in the chat box. We will put it up in front of the speaker so that he can start answering them. In the meanwhile, I have a few questions that have already come. I'll just request you to answer those questions. The first question is, in correlation analysis algorithms, does redundant data affect the algorithm, or in ANN, or any pre-processing is needed?
It's a really valuable question, because in any kind of data sets, there is some redundancy. Not only redundancy, you can imagine some information are missing as well. So what all the data we have taken is already filtered, and we go through some pre-processing techniques. So to answer to your questions, yes, we need to do some pre-processing before we pass it to the model. Because once, if it has missing data or it has redundant data, it impacts the model, because it take those data sets into the training set, so that it impact on the machine will learn it as an input. But in the real testing set, you can't find those kind of things. So it impacts with your outcomes.
Okay, sir. So we have the next question by Madam Purlalata. Is there a way to decide upon the optimal time frame or window size?
It depends. It depends means based upon the disease, you can define the window size. For example, uh, a health like a patient of heart disease, we need to monitor the heart disease patient data in every second itself, because within 1 minute it is very critical, right? So we need to define the window size 1 minute, even though higher for heart patient data. So we can imagine it can be less than 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds, one data we need to collect. But at contrast, if we can check a cancer patient data, I'm not saying cancer patient data is not so important. It is important, but even though in 1 minute we can collect his data is okay, but it is not so critical at in a short time span. So that's why you need to define based upon your disease how much window size. And with respect to the size of the window within the same disease, again you need to define like it's a 30 seconds each in interval or 40 seconds. You need to go through few round of collection, then you can have a better stabilize, like in my simulation you can imagine, if we increase number of parameters initially, the stabilization is very unstable, highly unstable, but later on when we increase number of parameters it is become. So I can suggest like initially you may go for few round of collection, and then you can get the really optimum one.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Dr. Niranjan. Does this kind of modeling health data more suitable in the case of pandemic?
Absolutely yes, because per recent research, if even though in my previous work what I mentioned, uh, you can imagine like when we detect the pandemic like COVID-19, we have the symptoms, right? The symptoms is like as we know, we have throat infection, we have some nasal burning sensation, and also we have cough, we have fever. So these kind of symptoms are very common in terms of COVID-19 patients. So if we can make it in a analytical model with some probability factor, who one report I learned, 54% patients are COVID-19 patients are having fever. 19% patients are uh, nasal burning sensation. So nasal burning sensation is not very common in the patients, in all the COVID-19 patients, but fever is a pretty common, or throat infection is a pretty common in COVID-19 patients. So if we can give like a probability index to each symptoms and can make it into a model, then I think it will be a great impact to the outcomes. In addition to this, because all this data, what I discussed is a structured data, is a numeric data. In addition to this, if we can add the imaging data, for example, the patient having, we know it impact the lungs. So the lungs, we can get the MRI data or maybe the chest X-ray data, and we have some other tools, for example, the CNN, or maybe we can go with some other image analysis tools, and we combine those outcomes into this kind of prediction mechanism. Then absolutely we can come out with a very robust, is a exact predictive model for COVID-19 patients.
Okay. We have the next question by Niranjan sir itself. How is the model outcomes are validated? Do you match the results with the clinical data?
Currently, yes, like you can see my recent publication. We directly work on the that cancer data on the real patient data. So we validate with the clinical data. But if we talk about these publications, no, that time we have not validated with any clinical data. However, we validate with the other protocols with same data.
Okay, sir. The next question is by Ms. Rashmi. Can you give a little bit more information about Cloud SIM and Spark platform?
Okay. A Cloud SIM simulator, you can even though you can, if you can input in the Google, you can found the Cloud SIM simulator. Actually, it is designed by the author is from an university is in Australia. So they have make it open so that even though recently I came to know they have already been added the machine learning module to this Cloud SIM so that you can directly work on the analytical things. But during 2016, like this paper, working on this paper, that time it doesn't include that machine learning part. So that's why we need to write down the code inside the simulator. So moreover, you can get it online from the website, the Cloud SIM simulator directly. If you can't find, please let me know.
Okay, sir. With respect to the students who are doing their undergraduate studies, what kind of projects the students can take up in this particular domain?
Okay. Here 2 or 3 points I can explain. The number one is healthcare is a domain, is an application, but you may focus on the higher layer like the cloud system, the analytical system. So based upon the analysis, for example, you have you learn machine learning, okay? Machine learning, you may need to learn some machine learning tools, for example, ANN, clustering, classification. So those are some common tools for the machine learning. And also you can train yourself for artificial intelligence part also. And also you can train yourself for some other tools, for example, CNN. So for the image analysis. So these kind of things you need to learn, like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and also the cloud platform, because nowadays everything is becomes the cloud. So I believe the AWS or like Amazon, like Microsoft Azure, even the IBM, they have their own cloud infrastructure. So you also need to learn, or you can go through some short courses facilitated by those kind of providers to know or to learn how to access their system, or how to pass the data or store the data into their system. So for example, like I can give one example. We deal currently in my job. We are working with the networking devices. We store those data into the Amazon Web Services. So we need to call some procedures defined by Amazon Web Services. So that's the way we need to store the data into Amazon services. But we cannot do the same thing into Microsoft Azure. We need to learn, we need to call the Microsoft Azure procedure to store the data into their system. So here my point is, you need to go through or to learn their APIs to collect, to process, to connect to their system. Yeah, so the broadly, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data analytics, and also this cloud structure you need to learn. Go through some short-term courses or some internship so that it can help.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. That is the end of today's. Okay, we have one more question coming up. I'll just read it out.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. What's the best way to arrive at probability model? Why Markov model is preferred?
Okay, it's a pretty nice question. If we we cannot go for a head-to-head comparison. Why Markov with why not why with ANN? We have to choose the suitable model with respect to a suitable application. That is most important. ANN will take longer time to give the outcomes, whereas probabilistic this Markov model will take less time in terms of processing the things. But if we optimize the things, like for example, if we know which symptom is getting, okay, I can put it like this way. If we pass all the information to the ANN model, we don't need to specify what it is. We can directly put all the parameters as an input. We don't need to define what it is, right? But in the Markov model, we need to define, we need to specify, okay, if you are dizzy, you have more higher probability to get into the fever. But in the ANN part, you don't need to define this thing. You need to define, you just need to put all the inputs and the system will decide where to go, whether it's a fever or a not fever, or you are healthy. So the calculation of ANN will take much longer time. But in healthcare domain, we need to make the things happen in quickly as a short period of time. So that's why we choose hidden Markov model over ANN. But I am not saying it is the only model we can take. We can take some other predictive models, but in this kind of data sets, in this kind of scenario, I choose this hidden Markov model as the optimum one as compared to the other ones.
Thank you, sir. I think we have come to the end of the Q&A session. If there are any more questions, I request the participants to please post it in the chat box. In the meantime, I will Jagdish sir. Jagdish sir, if you have any comments, please unmute yourself and you can ask any questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, and I thank
please go ahead.
Dr. Suvendu for this wonderful presentation. I think it has motivated many of us, I mean, students as well as the faculty and my colleagues. Thank you very much for this.
I think we have some
getting thank you so much.
All right, we'll wait for sir to come back. We have our chair of IEEE Mangalore subsection, Dr. UC Niranjan. Sir, would you like to give your comments, please?
Good evening. Thank you very much, Dr. Suvendu Mohapatra. It was, as Professor Keith said, it was very informative and very interesting talk. You talked about Industry 4.0. You talked about the body area network. You also showcased how to use MapReduce for this problem, hidden Markov models, and you combined all of them and then you presented your results. It was really, really very interesting and very thought-provoking webinar, I should say. One of the comments which you made during the presentation that the emphasis should be more on finding the problem than on the solutions made a great impact on me. That's really necessary in these times when all the technology is becoming a commodity, you can, take AWS, data centers, cloud computing. For everything, there is a platform. You just need to use it for your purpose and for your research. Therefore, finding an apt problem for which you can use all these commodities which are available to build up a system or a research solution is what is very important, is what touched me in your presentation. When I was listening to your talk of symptoms before the disease, such as cough and then, other symptoms, I was reminded of the family practitioners or family doctors we used to have many decades ago. Probably the students of this generation do not know about that, but we used to have these family physicians to whom we would go and then, tell about our symptoms, and then they would give us some medication which was provided by the compounder in that clinic, and then they would give us some red colored, solution to drink, something like a kashaya and all that. So, this reminded me those times. But these days, both the patients and the doctors are all very well educated thanks to the search engines like Google. And many, I have seen in front, on the doors of many doctors, if you have done a lot of search on Google, please unwind yourself, remove all that, and then get into my room for consultation. So many patients go with a lot of pre information which they gather from Google, and then they go and consult the doctor. So I was just wondering about how the times have changed from one generation to another generation. So it was really a very interesting talk. Thank you very much for making time to give this presentation. And I would like to thank SJEC for giving us these webinars in a continuous way. Very, very interesting talks, especially from Taiwan. This also reminds me of Pandit Nehru's slogan of India, China, Bhai Bhai, but SJEC has made it India, Taiwan, Bhai Bhai. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind words, Dr. Niranjan sir. So, like you mentioned about the ancient time, I can just put one point here. Even though we learn everything from the nature, so how can we learn? Like we imagine the relativity theory. So we like invent the relativity theory by the Einstein later fate, but still it is there in the nature. We know all the findings. It's already there in the nature. We just invent it. We just found it. We cannot modify it. We cannot recreate it. We just invent it. We found it. So similar way, we cannot change the nature, whatever it is, how it is. So like for the symptoms and all this part, we need to listen to our body, the natural process. If we can think in that way, then don't go for the mechanical way. Okay, you have this, you have to do that. Of course, we have to follow some orders, but if you can really understand yourself, your symptoms and your the awareness, you can hear from you, then yeah, you can overcome almost all the problems.
Thank you, sir. We'll go back to this, sir. This, sir, if you have any comments, please go ahead. Like this, sir, if you have any comments.
No. Actually, no comments. I just want to thank him. That's all. It was a wonderful session again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have just posted a link for our next webinar. Our next webinar is going to be on machine learning for all by one of the very famous personality in Bangalore. He has given several webinars, workshops related to machine learning. We will be having Mr. Vivek Venkobarao as one of the speakers for our webinars, and it is going to happen on Saturday at 4 p.m. So make yourself available and please join the webinar on Saturday. So with this, I'm concluding today's session. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the speaker of today, Dr. Suvendu, for being here with us and sharing his experience, sharing his knowledge, and enriching us with a lot of information, new information. And I feel that as a community, we are definitely going to make the best use of whatever knowledge you have provided to us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to also thank, I would also like to thank Dr. Jagdish RV for identifying the apt speaker for today's session. Sir has been, very eager to, conduct webinars. He's been constantly contacting me, like, can we do more webinars? Definitely, sir. We are happy to host as many webinars as possible. You are getting some great speakers from Taiwan, and we are really, enjoying this webinar series. And I would like to thank you again for doing that. And finally, I would like to thank the head of the department, Dr. Dayakshini, for her constant support, and also the IEEE Student Branch Counselor, Ms. Rashmi Halamane, who has been a constant pillar of support throughout this webinar series. She's the one who prepares all the feedback sessions, and we had actually planned today to do a co-moderation session, but what has happened is there were not many questions. Anyways, next time when we have a lot of questions, Rashmi, we will definitely do a co-moderating session. So with this, I also like to thank all the participants who have come here. You are there, only then we can have these kind of webinars. Thank you one and all. Feedback link is posted in the chat box, so make sure that you use that feedback link and give your valuable feedback so that we can improve our upcoming webinar. So with this, I conclude today's webinar. Thank you very much. See you on Saturday for our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.